I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately, and it's so crazy because what I recognized is I did a lot of suppressing. See, here's the thing about it. I started school officially in January, January, or something like that, maybe February, I don't know. I started school in the beginning of this year, which is 2023. That entire 5 months of my first semester, at first it was such a rush and such a good feeling that I almost I just kind of went into shock, right? And I'm just like going through the motions of it and like, oh my God. And then fast forward when those 5 months were up and I had to move back in with my mom. It just felt different. I feel like I wasn't even able to recognize my experience until I sat down and was like, boom, oh my God, I work with Forrest Laurent, I work with this guy, I met this person, I had so much fun at this event. I truly suppressed the whole freaking experience because there were two different things happening to me, right? There were two different things happening simultaneously. One was the experience I was having while I was in school. I was having an experience in school that forced me to be around people again and open me up. And I was hopeful. I was optimistic. I was meeting people. I was just enjoying the joys of learning again, being a student, while simultaneously I was going back home into dealing with the aftermath of still processing the trauma that was going on prior to me going to school and trying to figure out who I was and trying to integrate myself with these different relationships and still battling with the old version of me. So I would go to school and be this bubbly, happy sponge that was taking in the experiences. And then I would go back home and be this person who was just battling internally with who it is that I wanted to be. And it all of that turmoil, that two different versions of me showing up, it created this shell shock where it's almost like I went from enjoying the day to just getting through the day. And it wasn't until recently, which was after the semester ended, that I was able to sit down and just reflect, man. And let me just tell you this, now that I'm able to really sit back and truly reflect on the experience I had within the first month, I had a freaking ball. I had an experience, man. And it's not just about because of the people that I met or whatever. It's just the fact that I submerged myself into being a student again, and I was learning new and beautiful things, and I was on a beautiful campus. First of all, a lot of you guys don't know this about me, but when I originally went to college the first time around, I had to go to a community college because my GPA wasn't the best. But I always wanted to go to Kennesaw because for me, I'm not a city girl. I'm more of a suburban type of girl, right? I'm this type of person that's I prefer to live in Powder Springs, near the mountains. Fly me out to Colorado. That's me, okay? That's me 110%. I'm not I want to stay in the city and I want to do this. I'm a city girl type of girl. No, I'm the type of girl that enjoys nature and the experience of being at a certain environment. So I always wanted to go to Kennesaw. It was near the mountains. It just matched my vibe and my aura. But, I wasn't able to get there at first. So I always kept that in the back of my mind. I want the full-blown college experience that would come with being in a traditional college, even regardless of the degree. But, like I said, at first I had to do the community thing. So the fact that I actually got accepted into that college, that was a manifestation. I always wanted to go there. And not only was I now going there, I was older. I'm older. I'm wiser. I'm able to handle it a little bit more differently than I would have should I have went there the first time. So I got to experience it in a different way that I loved. And it was so beautiful, right? But I was standing at a manifestation that I genuinely enjoyed. I always wanted to go to Kennesaw, and I'm finally there. And not only did I go there, let me just tell you something, okay? I did the damn thing, okay? And I usually don't curse on my platform, but I did that, okay? And not only did I go, but I was passing, making good grades, meeting new, beautiful people, experiencing the culture that comes with being on college campus. opening myself up again, having communications, being bold enough to start my podcast on the freaking campus. Are you joking? What? Are you joking? I was bold enough to go out there and not just go there, but do the damn thing. I finished out my semester, passing all of my classes and doing what it is that I needed to do. I handled business. And you mean to tell me that all the while, like, I'm still experiencing this form of depression and like going through certain things to make me like numb out my experiences? What? See, and that's why I'm making this video. I'm calling it a reflection video because that's exactly what this is. I'm giving myself an opportunity to not just reflect on the bad that my depression was making me focus on. I want to create this video to reflect on the good too. Damn. I mean, goodness gracious, y'all. I had an experience. It might not have been perfect or whatever, because I'm going to be honest with you. Part of the reason why I was going through my down spells and, you know, seasonal, my depression or whatever, was because I wasn't working. So my financial situation played a huge role in how I was able to experience it. I didn't have a car. I didn't have the funds to be able to really move how I wanted to move, but I was still there and I was still committed. But I'm not gonna lie, like, part of the reason why I just couldn't really enjoy it how I wanted to is because I felt like I didn't have everything that I needed in order to fully experience it, right? I mean, first of all, not having a car, period, makes you very limited with the things that you can do. But also, like, you got to remember, prior to me going into college, I was in serious hermit mode. And I use that term a lot for my spiritual community. I'm sure they know what it is. But for those of you who don't, a hermit mode is when you go into your shell. You stick to yourself, you close off, you cut a lot of people off. And I talk about this a lot throughout my podcast. But I was going through a season of just isolation where it was just me and my family. So I even touched on this before. It was a little bit of a shell shock when I was like, okay, now I'm back submerged into college and I want to experience this. I want to do this. I want to do that. But another form of me was still like slowly coming out of hermit mode. So I felt a little bit conflicted within myself because it was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. And some of my insecurities got triggered by the people that I was meeting. Because mind you, I had to cut a lot of people off and separate myself from certain people in certain places because it was speaking to me from a lower place. I was realizing that I was evolving and elevating mentally and spiritually. And this isn't to discredit anybody around me, but some of the people and the experiences that I was around, they were not. So now I had to be in front of different people who were confident, were a little bit more spiritually evolved than I was. They were having conversations with me that they were nurturing the version of me that I had been cultivating while I was in hermit mode. So I was having higher conversations, and a part of that stimulated me, and another part of it just made me kind of feel like, oh wow, like it made me question myself a little bit, right? Because you got to think about it. It's one thing for you to think you're the shit when you're around other people and you're the smartest person in the room. But to get around other people now who are spiritually evolved, a little bit higher than you, have a little bit more than you do, it's a different situation then, isn't it? When you're the smartest person in the room, you have a certain level of confidence and arrogance about yourself. But when you are no longer the smartest person in the room and you are forced to learn different things and challenge yourself to see yourself in a different light, it makes you a little bit conflicted within. And that's what I was battling with. I was trying to figure out who I was, all while being in front of an audience of people who now know how to speak to the higher version of who I am. And I'm not going to lie, a part of that made me retreat. I'm not going to lie, a part of that situation made me retreat. I was like, dude, I don't even... Look, I know I go to God and I ask you for friends and a good, a guy who meets me on this level, who inspires me and blah, blah, blah. But if I'm honest, a part of me didn't think it was actually going to happen until God was like, okay, here you go. I was like, oh, Lord. Oh, my word. I don't know if these people truly see me. Because for real, I'm not going to lie. Like, a part of me was like, Scared, because here's the thing, like when you're around other people who like are comfortable in their insecurities, it's easier for you to hide your insecurities, right? But I was now speaking to people like Forrest Laurent and my friend Ace, and just speaking to different people who are more spiritually in tune, well enough to be self-aware to know who they are and recognize the insecurities and the differences between other people. So I felt so naked around them. Oh my God, I felt so naked. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, like even when I met Forrest, I and it's funny, he can kind of attest to this as well, but I told him, like, dude, I almost blocked you. I almost blocked you, and I almost ran away from you, dude. Not because of anything that you did, but because I felt so seen. Like, a lot of my insecurities were like bubbling up to the surface. Like, he just made me feel so vulnerable and so naked that I was like, dude, I gotta get away from you. You know too much. You've seen too much, you know what I mean? But like, even that, like, and it wasn't just him. It was like the people that I came in contact with, the people that I started networking with, they just, they were a little bit more spiritually in tune with themselves. So even that, like, a part of me was like, wow, and excited and wanting to be around it. But another part of me was like, oh, I got to push these people away. God, I got to push these people away. They see too much. They know too much about me. And, that's why I kind of like, I went into another little bit of a hermit mode, because it was like, damn, dude, like, I thought I was more healed than this. I thought I was more like, I thought I was better than this. I thought I cultivated a different level of confidence while I was in my first hermit mode. So why am I being triggered so badly when I'm around these people? And you know what I realized? There was this quote or this message that I came across when I was scrolling on social media. And it was this woman who said, you can't fully heal alone. All you're doing when you're isolating yourself away from people is protecting yourself. But you don't truly heal until you are triggered into your healing by other people. You need people in order to heal. And see, that was very interesting to me, because I was like, wow, so I can't be alone for the rest of my life? And don't get it twisted, okay? That is still very much so an option, okay? Let's be very real about this situation. I'm so down. Like, I've cultivated this level of independence and understanding within myself that says, if I have to be alone for the rest of my life, then so be it. You know what I mean? I don't want to, though. That's just a different level of my wounding. Like, I'm just like, I'd rather be alone than to be hurt again. And see, that's when I realized I was going into preserving. I was preserving myself. I thought I was healing myself because I was keeping myself away from people and things and certain things that would trigger me. But what I was doing was preserving myself. I was protecting myself from getting hurt again. And see, what I talk about, in my podcast is that a lot of the times we think that we're trying to preserve or protect ourselves when, in a way you are, when you close yourself off and you close the door and retreat and do all this, you do in a way protect yourself. But what you're also doing is protecting yourself against the things that are going to help you grow. And see, that within itself, like, it triggered this whole paradigm shift for me, because within understanding that, I also realized how much I suppressed. Like I said recently, I didn't even recognize just how far I had come in my healing journey until I was being triggered. I was like, wow, like a lot of these things that like affected me before, they don't affect me now. And it also held up a mirror, because I was meeting all of these beautiful people, and I was like, wow, like this is dope. Like, I actually can start letting people in again. But a part of me also held the mirror up to my insecurities. And I was like, wow, like and then I started projecting. I was like, look, like, I need you to get away from me. You're not ready to be this, you're this, and you're that. And I'm projecting that hurt. I was projecting my hurt onto other people. And I don't know if I have any of my listeners out there who can, attest to this. But if you're anything like me, when I'm going through something, I feel like I need to retreat, and isolate myself because I need to be the one to handle this. I want to handle it. I want to be the one to do this. And that works for a while. It truly does work for a while. But the older I get, the more I'm starting to realize how detrimental that can be to someone who actually long-term, secretly wants things like a family, a husband, true, genuine relationships into my life. That's not healthy. How can you truly want those things when your idea of fixing the problem is isolating yourself or blocking people or turning away or, pretending that the problem isn't there? And see, that's something that I wanted to work through on my own. And see, even that, you see where the problem is? Did you hear it? Did you catch it? I'm just so used to doing things on my own that it's kind of hard for me to let people in. So instead, I chose to push people away and block people and then turn around and think long term and after the fact about, how do you feel? Like, I wish I didn't do that. I wish I didn't push people away because I go out into the world saying that I don't need anyone, but then I secretly go back to God and say that I wish I had a friend. I wish I had better relationships and better connections with my family members. And that's not healthy, It's not. But see, I had to recognize that for myself. I had to go to God. I remember going to God towards the end of my semester. And actually a little bit more so now that I have the time to reflect, now that my semester is over. I just remember going to God and saying, wow, I really wish that you could give me another opportunity to meet these people again. Like, if it's in your will, God, I pray that you bring those situations back around because I know that I can do better than that. I'm not that person anymore. And I feel like the version of me that showed up in those relationships was a version of me that was still hurting and was afraid to get hurt. And I was projecting certain things onto certain people and keeping certain people around out of codependency and fears and lack. And I remember going to God and saying, like, man, if it's in your will for you to bring those relationships back around, then I pray that you do, because I'm better than that. And see, that's another thing that I kind of want to touch on a little bit. I started to recognize, like, a lot of the reason why my world and my perspective on people and things were so detrimental, even during a season of true prosperity and growth and learning, was because of how I viewed myself. How you talk about yourself, how you view yourself, it plays a big part in the career path that you choose or the relationships that you choose or the lack thereof. And after reflecting on the things that I've gone through, I recognize that I've created the narrative. There are narratives that other people have created about me in their own world, and I get that. But there's also a narrative that I created about myself that made me view myself as a victim or someone who couldn't do this or couldn't do that. And, it wasn't until recently that I got to, like, reflect on the suppressed experiences that I'd gone through that made me realize, like, oh, wait a minute. My speech is betraying me. I say that I'm insecure. I say that I'm shy. I say that I don't want these things, but secretly behind closed doors, I still write them out. Behind closed doors, I still pray about these situations. Hell, I say that I'm shy and can't have a certain lifestyle when I've already created it. I have a whole podcast that you guys are listening to right now. I have a YouTube platform, multiple YouTube platforms that I've created. That is an extension of what it is that I believe that I can have for myself. So my speech is no longer lining up with who I am. And that's something that I needed time to reflect on and check within myself. And I feel like I wanted to, create this reflection episode because here's the thing. I feel like we're in a season of reflecting as a collective. I feel like we need that time and that space to be able to catch our emotions and our experiences up to the present moment, because there are some outdated belief systems. There are some outdated ways of thinking and believing and behaving that is only continuously staying in our environment only because we haven't taken the time to remember who we are now, to give ourselves honor and credit of who we are now. And see, the only way that can happen is when you go on autopilot. When you don't give yourself sufficient enough time and space to reflect on where you've been, on who you are, and where you're going, then you continue to operate on an autopilot stance that says that I'm just being who I was when I was 15. I'm just being who I was when I was 20 or 30. But see, what you don't recognize is the experiences that you've gone through in between time has molded a different version of you that you can't even allow that version of you to burst out, because your perspective on yourself is what's limiting your options. And see, I just wanted to create this video, man, because see, now I'm at this place where it's like I'm reflecting and I'm trying to figure out what to do with what it is that I've experienced. There are two different versions of me that have existed for a really, really long time. There's a version of me that shows up in an insecure way, that views myself as a victim and doesn't see how far I can go. And then there is a version of me that has cultivated wisdom, emotional intelligence, compassion, spiritual growth, spiritual healing that I haven't even been able to put into practice. That's why I say sometimes you see me going on a hiatus with my podcast, because I need to practice what I preach. I can't just keep coming on here giving you guys spiritual advice when I'm not also taking it. Because if I do that, it's going to get me to a place where I feel like it's no longer going to be in an authentic place. I'm going to build up a certain level of resentment, because it's like I'm going out into the world presenting all this wisdom and knowledge, and then going back home trying to figure out how I can get that same wisdom and knowledge for myself. And if it ever gets to that point, I can't do this, because I have to remember the place where I started. I'm not doing this for likes. I'm not doing this for gimmicks. I would love for it to get to that point where this can eventually sustain me, because this is genuinely an extension of what I love. But I'm not doing it for that. I'm not. I'm doing this because this is a part of who I am. But I can't give from an empty cup. So recently I've been feeling very drawn to look back at my content videos, look back at all of it. I was looking back on all the experiences that I created within this 5-month time span. And like I said, I just feel like everything that I suppressed just came to the surface. And I just started realizing like, whoa, like the version of me that was also being cultivated is someone who is so confident, like super sexy, super like, even my style, like how I dress, it's starting to change. And I didn't even recognize it. It was something so subtle. But the main reason why I wasn't able to recognize it was because my ego and my intrusive thoughts had become louder than my experiences. Right? And like I said, like that kind of sucks. That kind of sucks because I couldn't. What I look back on now in retrospect is the fact that I wasn't as present as I could have been to fully enjoy those moments. Right? I mean, even the relationships that I've cultivated, I don't know if they're going to be lifelong or whatever. But what I do know is I want to be present enough to like embrace it in that moment so that I don't look at it after the fact and be like, whoa, like I wish I would have been present enough to enjoy that a little bit more, because it was so beautiful. The people I met was so beautiful. They're so beautiful. Seriously. And I say that because like I genuinely mean it. I really do. I met some beautiful people. I created some beautiful podcast episodes. Like all of it is just so, I've just grown so much. I really have. Like, I'm not the same person I used to be, guys. If you really, really followed me, and I mean like my day one A1s, then y'all know like my content, the quality of it, all of it was just, it was different. because some of the messages that I was giving to you all was just an extension of my pain. But as time went on, it was like my content evolved with me. And I enjoy the person that I am now. I enjoy who I am, the people that I encounter. And I don't know, I guess I just wanted to take the time to reflect and recognize like how far I've truly come. And the opportunities that are now in front of me now that I see myself in this different light. It's different. I'm different. Who I am now is different. Where I'm going is different. I want different things. And a part of me that played a role in me feeling so conflicted was that the version of me that felt like a victim wanted to hold on to this idea of who I used to be, while this new version of me wants to go in a completely different direction with my career, with my relationships, with who I talk to. That's why I feel so conflicted. I feel so like confused sometimes on where to go and what to do with my gifts, what my gifts and talents even are. Because there is still this version of me that feels like if I don't stay committed to the version of me that I've always been seen as, then I'll lose. I'll miss out on something, or I'll be seen as some monster or somebody who doesn't know or have things together. The truth is I don't, okay? I don't. I don't have it all together. And that's okay. But what's not okay is pretending like I do. I don't have it all figured out. I don't know where I'm going. Okay? I don't have it all figured out. Okay? I don't know where I'm going. But what I do know is I want to go in a different direction. And I don't even know what that direction is necessarily. I just know that I'm more creative than I give myself credit for. I'm more bubbly, more open than I give myself credit for. More loving, more willing than I give myself credit for. And I'm tired of pretending like I'm not. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I'm a tarot reader. I read tarot. I consider myself spiritual. I believe in God. I believe in, the Most High. But I read tarot. I'm a tarot reader. I have visions. I have intuitive guidance that I share to you all. And a part of me felt very ashamed to admit that, because I have this preconceived notion that if I say that out loud, or I admit to that, or, embrace that identity of me, then I will be seen as like, oh, I'm a witch, and people are going to think I'm witchy, and people are going to think this, and people are going to think that, specifically my mother, because my mother is a Jehovah's Witness. So I was afraid to bring that version out of me, and I closed it off because I thought that meant that something was wrong with me. And even I've had like a person in the past message me and say, hey, like, you're not supposed to do that. If you believe in God, you're supposed to do this and that. And I'm not saying this to discredit their wisdom. I'm just saying that knowing all of that made me suppress a version of who I am. This is a part of who I am. Even if I'm not using tarot cards to channel, I still receive intuitive guidance from the Most High, and I know it's from Him. And everybody has their gift. Everybody has their gift. Even when it comes to my writing, like, I still have books stored up in my file right now that I kind of hold off on posting because it's an extension of my vulnerability. And I don't know. I have so many talents and gifts that lay dormant within me because of fear of being judged. And what I recognize in my reflecting season is that within itself is a projection. Yes, there are people who judge and have their preconceived notions about it, but it's also a projection of me. I judge myself too harshly because I go after things thinking that if I'm not perfect at it, then I can't do it. And what that does is hinder me from doing anything at all. I have so much potential inside of me, and there's a version of me that so desperately wants to cling on to doing things the traditional way, getting the 9-to-5, getting my money together, stacking it up. But then there's a version of me that I just cannot deny that I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it. I won't do it. my spirit rejects it because it's not an extension of who I'm supposed to be. And instead of being so conflicted and angry about it, I want to just embrace it. I want to accept it. Even if I don't know how to do it, I just want to accept the fact that that is also a part of who I am. That's a part of me. This podcast is a part of me. Reading tarot is a part of me. And I close that part off because I don't want certain people to see. But see, the funny part about that is when you close yourself off to certain things or don't want to express yourself in a genuine way, what you also do is attract certain people who also are not an extension of their authentic self. But see, you turn around and you get upset when you recognize that I just keep attracting people who don't know how to keep it real or don't know how to be their authentic self to me. Yeah, that's because you don't know how to do that for yourself either. I tell y'all this all the time, but people are your mirrors. And I kept getting in this stuck mentality of, well, why do I keep attracting the same guy? Or why do I keep attracting the same kind of friends that always end the exact same way? And it's because there's a version of me that I refuse to show. Instead of being honest about it, I run. And I don't want to do that anymore. Come what may, I don't want to do that anymore. That is no longer who I am. And I will commit to that to the day I die. Because I would rather die being judged than to die living in this state of not expressing the full extent of who I am. If the worst thing that you can do to me is judge me harshly, then bring it on. I've judged myself harshly enough to where I've pushed people and opportunities away long enough. This is a part of who I am, and I don't want to hide that anymore. I don't want to hide that. I don't want to hide my gifts. I don't want to buy. I'm done. And you know what? I was raised in a household that was embedded into, I think just in females, period. It's embedded in us to be oppressed. It's embedded in us to be silent about certain things because you need to be a young lady or follow your elders. But you know what? If any of that means going against who you truly are, then to hell with it. That's not who I am anymore, and I'm not going to keep embracing it. Sometimes life can be just as simple as accepting, and I think that's where I kind of got stuck. I didn't accept the fact that I was somebody different. I kept trying to be someone I kept trying to honor who I used to be. But the hardest part of my journey was acceptance. I couldn't fully accept all of who I was because I felt like there were people around me who couldn't accept me. But does that give me permission to feel bottled up? I felt so stuck. So unseen, so unheard. I just felt like I just felt stuck. And at the end of the day, I want to create a life that's different. And there are some people who will just talk about it, and then there are people who will do something about it. And I know me. I may settle for a little while, but give me a few months. I'm going to be out of here. Okay? I'm going to be right back in the same position, telling myself that I need to go. There's always something inside of me that calls me to go in a different direction. And the only thing that keeps me bound to where I am is fear. I don't know what's on the other side of this, but I want to know. I want to find out. I'm willing to find out. And it took me some time to get here. It took me some time to heal over the initial breakup that got me to this healing journey to begin with. I'm just now getting to a place of saying like, okay, I can let this go now. I can let him go now. I can love and have compassion for him. I was angry, okay? I was angry. I was upset, very much so. And I think I took that anger and that frustration out on the wrong people, including myself. I can sit up here and point the finger at him all day, but I think what really boiled down to me was I was upset with myself for allowing certain things to happen. I was upset with myself for staying longer than I should have. I was upset with myself for even just loving him, was upset. I was truly upset. And I think I held on to that relationship even well past us breaking up because I was still processing that. So I kept going into different relationships saying that I was available, but I wasn't. I chose being single for a reason. First of all, I kept attracting a lot of emotionally unavailable men because I was emotionally unavailable. And that includes the relationship that I so desperately wanted to work out. I wasn't available. I wanted love, but I didn't believe in it. So I am choosing to be single in this season. And I feel like I had to remind myself of that because, again, through doing my reflecting, I recognized like, wait a minute, I'm not single just for the sake of being single. I'm single because I'm working on myself. I want to work through these things so that I prepare for a love that I actually want. This isn't about, oh, well, I just want to shut myself off. Although I did get to that point a few times in my journey, I'm not going to lie. But this is mostly about me recognizing my worth. If I go into a relationship, a seriously committed relationship, I want it to be for love. I want it to be with someone who I can actually build with and actually sees my worth, not just for the sake of having company. And I had to remind myself of that. Even I had to remind myself of why I got back into the position of being a student. I want to learn. I want to grow. And I think within giving myself this opportunity to just rest and remember that, I remember the root reason of who I am. And I think this whole resting and reflecting is mostly about that. I need to give myself enough time and space to come back home to myself. I feel like there were a lot of different things and people and experiences that kind of just shell shocked me out of my body. Like I've just been having an outer body experiences where I'm just like going through the motions of it. And I need time to come back home to myself. Especially a lot of the trauma and the pain that I've gone through. Like I kind of just went through this mode of like protection where it's like, it just felt like an outer body experience. And I felt like I've been going through that for such a really long time that it just feels foreign to me to be comfortable enough to let people in or be comfortable enough to like just settle within myself and make better decisions. But that's what I'm doing. I'm actually actively making the decision to be with myself, to call myself back home to me. And I just felt very drawn to create this video, very vulnerable video, very honest video for the people who listen all the way until the end. Hello and thank you. I feel like some of y'all just do not listen to the videos all the way through, and that's okay. I still love you guys. I still love it. But yeah, I don't know. This is really a very pivotal point in my life. You know, I'm 26, going on 27 next year. And I just want this opportunity to kind of mark the date that I actually commit to me. I haven't really said all this stuff out loud to anyone. So my podcast listeners and my YouTube listeners, you guys get a fresh, you get the first-hand look. But, it's different now. And I'm actually excited about that. Before when I was younger, I used to think that something was wrong with me because I didn't want what everybody else wanted. Everybody else around me wanted to just get the right job, or it seemed like they just had it all together when it comes to knowing what it is that they wanted to do. They wanted to work the 9 to 5. They wanted to, have the house, have the wife, have the husband. And I never did. Don't get me wrong. I wanted to work. I wanted to, but it was never about the structure of it. It was about the experience of it. I always wanted to work in like the big fancy office and to, because there were a certain lifestyle that I wanted to create. It was never about the money for me. It was about the experiences that I wanted to cultivate for myself. And I would always get into those experiences that I manifested, and then it would be so fleeting for me because it never really felt it. It never felt like that was it. Like, I can stay here. Like, you know how some people can get into a job and say, yeah, I can work this job for the next 20 to 30 years. I never felt like that. I've never came in contact with anything that just made me feel like I can do this for the rest of my life. I always came into experiences that just felt so short term. And I mean that for relationships, for jobs, all of it just felt so short term for me. And I used to think that meant that something was wrong with me. Like, why can't I just commit to this journey, this path like everybody else is? Why can't I just be comfortable? But then I started to recognize, like, it's because it's not for me. And like I said, like, a part of me felt like I tried so hard to convince myself to let down my dream. I did, and some days I still do. I try to convince myself that I'm thinking too far ahead, or I just need to give up on it, but I can't. I've tried to just work the traditional 9 to 5. I swear I did. I tried to just do what everybody else was doing, what everybody in my family was doing, all the suggestions, all the feedback, all of it. I tried to do all of it, but I can't commit to it because there's a certain something in my spirit that just rejects it. I don't think that's a part of who I am. And although I don't know how to get to this other side of me, I kind of already know. I mean, I am this me. I think I needed this time to reflect, to actually recognize that go now. You know, a certain part of me totes around this old version of me because I feel like I need it, because I need a sense of identity. But that's not who I am. And I don't think any of you who feel drawn towards my podcast or any of the things that you do, I don't think it's a part of who you are either, but I could be wrong. I can only speak for me personally. I just feel very drawn to go in a different direction, to create something different. I dream about it every night. I visualize it. And I would rather make the commitment to move forward than to turn back. I don't think there's an option. I've tried going back. Let's be very clear. I tried. I keep trying to go back, but it just keeps forcing me out. I don't have a choice. I want to see what else is out here for me. And for anybody that I've come in contact with, whether that be a listener or just anybody, I want you guys to genuinely know that whatever version of me that you got to experience, like, that's okay. We're all human. We're all just trying to figure it out. But I would love, if it's in God's will, to have an opportunity for you guys to meet the real me. Even if that means just over the video or over the podcast. We don't need to see each other. But I do recognize that there has been a version of me that I kept showing up as out of fear. And now I'm stepping into my authentic self. And I'm ready to show that version of me, who I really am. And for the right people who are meant to be in my life, I can't wait. I think that it'll be such a beautiful experience for me to meet you again, or reintroduce myself. And for any of you who are struggling to do the same, I can promise you it is a journey, but it is worth it. It's just about acceptance. So that's my reflection video for the day, guys. I just wanted to come on here and check in and tell you how much I appreciate how you guys just being on this journey with me means. Like, it really has been a journey, hasn't it? Seriously, like, Y'all have seen me in my down, my ups, my good, my bad. I keep trying to present my good to you guys, but I think you guys can kind of pick up on when things are not good. But I appreciate even that too. And that's the show for today, guys. Till next time, continue to love on yourself just a little bit harder. And I'll see you on the next show.